seconds here. Edgar, come on in, brother. Here, you want me to send you a real quick? There you go.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. My name is Edgar Rico. I am definitely an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I just want to say hi to old friends, new friends. I'm a firm believer that nothing happens by mistake, and we're all here tonight together, gathered for a reason. And It's been a very beautiful day for me today. It rained last night. And I got to get up and walk my dogs, and my 4-year-old wanted to go with me, and she wanted to jump through some puddles, and it was the best fun we had, just jumping in puddles, man. It's just a simple thing to just watching her light up. And we got to finish booking some stuff for our upcoming vacation in a couple weeks. We're gonna go celebrate my 5-year wedding anniversary in Hawaii, and in November, we took my daughter for her 4-year-old birthday to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. And when we were there, I asked her, I was like, "Oh, where do you want to go next?" She's like, "I want to go see some volcanoes." I'm like, "Okay." And God is making that happen for us today. We get to go check out some volcanoes in Hawaii. And God has truly blessed me, man. God has really truly blessed me and my family, and I'm indebted to God and very grateful for that. But it wasn't always like that. It was not always like that. This disease really had me for a good portion of my life, and I didn't understand it. I didn't understand my illness or my disease. I just thought drinking and using was normal at the age of 13. I'd get out of school. I was in middle school. I'd get out of school, and the people that I associated with at the time that took me in, that made me feel welcome, said, "Why don't you try some of this alcohol?" And we'd run into the local grocery store and we'd do some beer runs. We'd go in there and we'd steal tall cans, we'd steal 40s, and we'd run out. And we were kids, and we thought that was fun. We thought it was exciting to try to steal alcohol from the local grocery store. And we'd go into the apartment complex that was there, and we'd drink on the stairs at the age of 13. And then someone introduced us to marijuana, and just started smoking some pot. And that's what I would do every day after school, after junior high. I'd have to walk home. It was about a 2-mile hike. So on the way home, we'd run into the store, steal some alcohol, and then go smoke some bud. And that's how all this started. And I did it now looking back in retrospect. It's because these guys took me in. They're a little older. They made me feel part of, and I just wanted to belong to something. In my whole life, I just felt like I never really belonged anywhere, but these guys took me in. And that continued. That was starting to become a normal routine, every day. And that continued into high school. Now we're meeting up before school at the local park, drinking, smoking. We ditch class, go do the same thing after class. And it started progressing into a lot of heavier stuff. I started getting involved with the meth, with the coke, with the crack, with the ecstasy, with the special K. Then I started dabbling in pharmaceutical sales. I started selling marijuana at the time to support my habit. And then I got caught at school with it and got expelled from my school. And the juvenile court, part of that, when I got caught, the juvenile court system sent me to my first outpatient program at the age of 15. It was a 90-day program. And that's the first time I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. It was an outpatient program. So I had to do it for 90 days, and our parents were involved. Yeah, I'm in California. I'm in Southern California. And that program was at Loma Linda Behavioral Medical Center at the Loma Linda University, the well-known university. And they know what they're talking about there. Uh, and they proceeded to help me try to understand alcoholism. And I'm 15 years old, and I'm only there because I got caught with some butt at school, man. Wrong place, wrong time. I don't have a problem. I don't have alcoholism. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, I'm just here because the court's making me come here, and I don't want to go to juvenile hall. So from the age of 13 to the age of 23, the longest I had ever been continuously sober was those 90 days in that outpatient program. And that was based on pure fear, the fear of going to juvenile hall. I didn't want to go to jail. But, that was the only reason why I did that. So I know it's possible to stay sober on pure fear, pure consequences for a length of time. I did it. I did it for 90 days. So I know that's doable. And I know a lot of people come in here and have that experience within the rooms, not understanding that they have a disease and an illness, and we need to do something about that. So I completed that program. I didn't have alcoholism. I didn't have a problem, and everything quickly progressed. I started dabbling in more pharmaceutical sales, selling guns, running with the wrong crowd. Just my life got really dark. At the age of 18, I don't know how I ended up managing graduating from high school, but I was at a bunch of graduation parties that weekend, and I was bouncing from one party to another. I'm really into fast cars. I still am. I had a fast car then, and got really drunk, right? And someone challenged me to a race. Like, oh, okay, you want to race? Then we're going to go to the top of the mountain. We're not going to go to the straightaway right here. And we proceeded to race down the mountain and down a mountain, and I'm drunk. And I hit this curve going like 80. I was not going to make that curve. And I ended up crashing into the brick wall next to the party that we were at, going about 70, 80 miles an hour. And I went straight into that wall. I almost killed my buddy next to me, almost killed my cousin behind me. My arm went into the dashboard and I shattered it like in three different locations. And I ended up in an intensive care unit with them repairing my arm. And that's where I got introduced to Vicodin and morphine, and I got introduced to that and I got hooked on Vicodin and morphine. They used to, I don't know if they still do now, but back then they used to hook you up to the IV and they used to give you a button to push the morphine, and for the pain. And you're only supposed to click it, maybe once every 3, 4, 5 hours or something. I was going to town on that thing, just just clicking away. And the nurse came over and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're going to be in a lot of pain, but we got to take you off this IV because you're not using it correctly." And I got introduced and addicted to morphine. So that was my first trip into the intensive care unit. So at that time in my life, I lost my car, lost all the so-called friends that were around. My girlfriend didn't want to be around. I got into a very deep depression, and that continued for about another 2 years. My friends at the time were like, "Dude, you got to snap out of this. We got to get you out of the house. Why don't you go with us to a party?" He's a DJ. He was a DJ. So I went with them to this party. And you know how you get that overwhelming sense, God consciousness, like maybe you shouldn't be here. Things don't feel right. Maybe you should exit the situation. Well, that immediately came when I got to this house. It's like, oh, I don't know if we should be here, man. This is a bad part of town. And my buddy was like, "Nah, it's all right. They got security. Everything will be all right." Well, sure enough, once that keg kicked in and people started drinking, there were these two different groups, gangs, whatever you want to call them. They were there. They did not get along. And once that liquor kicked in, a brawl just exploded. You got like 30 guys going at it in the backyard. 15 only, and they're just going at it. So I'm like, oh, we got to get out of here. So we started, loading up the DJ equipment. We get to the friend, and the fight spilled into the friend yard. Well, when I get drunk, our book called it a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I got an ego and I got a pride, and I like to fight. It's like, oh, they're fighting. This sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna go join these guys in a fight that has nothing to do with me, but I'm drunk, and if they're gonna fight, I'm gonna fight too. So I proceeded to jump into this fight with like 30 guys, going at it, and I get knocked to the ground. I think I got hit with the bat or something over the head. I'm on the ground, and I'm just getting thrown on. Well, when I'm on the ground, one of them has some kind of knife and it punctured my lung and two arteries, and then I got stabbed in the arm. So I'm proceeding to start choking on my own blood, and it was a pretty bad incident that happened, and very traumatic and traumatizing. It took a lot of work to get over that situation. Um, Thankfully, one of my buddies was a paramedic. They pulled me out of there, took me inside the house, and those guys were serious. They were the real deal. They came back with shotguns, and they're circling the house. They wanted to finish me off. Thankfully, the homeowner has some protection of his own, and back to the intensive care unit again. Back to getting hooked on Vicodin and morphine. But this time I'm in surgery for about 12 hours because they got to operate on my lung and my arteries and sew me back up. And they weren't sure if I was going to survive that. Mind you, I got stabbed in the lung, and the doctor tells me, he's like, when we were operating on your lung, do you smoke? Because you got a lot of damage to your lung. I'm like, yeah, I smoke meth. He's like, okay, you need to stop doing that. You just had surgery on your lung. It's pretty damaged and you need to stop. A month after that, I had recovered from being in that hospital. A month after I had left that hospital, I started smoking meth again. And I say all this to you guys to show you how much of a real alcoholic and the obsession and the allergy is real in me. There's no way around it. Mind you, a sane, logical person thinking now, looking back, would have stopped all that. They wouldn't have been smoking meth after they had just had surgery on their lung. And I hit a bottom, a spiritual bottom, a human bottom. And that's what it took for me at the age of 23 when I ended up in my first inpatient program. Burned every bridge around. People were looking for me. I owed a lot of people money. I burned a lot of bridges. My parents gave me an ultimatum. My mom had gone to Al-Anon, and the women in that Al-Anon meeting told her that she needed to let me hit my bottom. And she needed to just stop trying to control everything and let me really truly hit my bottom. And when I was ready, then that she could help. She had already had a rehab lined up for me, and she was just waiting for that day. So I show up one day at home. Um, well, I'm gonna backtrack because this is very important. What happened? I was at a house getting ready to sell some guns, and this complete strangers. I didn't know who this guy was. I still don't know who he is. Came up to me. It was like, dude, I got to get you out of here. You pissed some people off, and they wanted to do some damage, and you're not safe here. I got to get you out of here. It's like, well, what are you talking about? It's like, I got to get you out of here, man. You need to leave with me now. And this guy ended up getting me out of the house. Apparently, I'd said something while I was drunk that someone didn't like, and they were going to do something about it. And he took me home, right? And he drops me off at my parents' house. He's like, bro, I don't know what you're doing with us, but you don't belong with us, man. He's like, you need to take a good hard look at your life and really look at what you're doing, but you don't belong with us, you know? And I was like, okay. I still don't know who this guy is. And he hit me with enough moment of clarity, and Bill Wilson talks about that quicksand stretched all around him, and he had met his match. And I had that experience that day. Something within me had me look at my life and look back at my life and realize that what I had been doing up to that point was no good. I could have excelled at school. School's always pretty easy. I like sports. And I just looked back on my life and realized that all I was doing was hurting everyone that loved me. I wasn't doing any good. My life was going nowhere very fast and I needed to do something about that. And I broke down that night. I was sitting in my parents' driveway, just like, look at my life. Like, this is not where I wanted to be at 23. Like, I don't understand what's going on. So I banged on my parents' door, like around 1 in the morning. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but I need help. Like, I really need help and I don't know what's going on. So, the next day, my dad's friend was a highway patrolman and he showed up at the house. Well, I had left to go to the grocery store to get some snacks. I come back and Jose, my dad's friend was there. And I'm like, oh, his patrol car's there. His patrol car was there. I was like, oh, what's Jose doing here? And I walk in and all my stuff is packed up in bags. And he had my scale, my paraphernalia, and all the bud that I was selling. And my door was off my hinges in my room. Like I couldn't escape into my room. He's like, oh, your parents told me that you need help. And being a good alcoholic that I am, it's like, no, I can control the situation. I'm okay. I got it all under control. I don't know why I said that to them, but I got this under control. He's like, no, that's not true, man. He's like, you got three options. You can either leave your parents' house and go leave their house. You can go with me to jail or you're going to go into this rehab. Those are your three options and you need to make a choice today, right now. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to go hit the streets because people are looking for me. I owe people money. I don't want to go to jail because I'm just not built for jail. I don't like jail. I've done a couple overnighters. I just don't want to go to jail. So I'm going to go into this rehab and I'll be home tops in 2 weeks. I'll be home quick. So I ended up going into the 6 month inpatient program at the age of 23, rock bottom. That's not where I wanted to be at the age of 23. Not understanding alcoholism, not understanding anything about anything. I just didn't have anywhere else to go. And at this particular rehab, they had a book study, a big book study, 5 nights out of the week. So every night after you're done with your curriculum during the day, and they let you break for a meeting at night, you could either go to the speaker meeting or you can go to the book study. Those are they let that choice up to you. So I ended up going to the book study the second night that I was there, still detoxing, because I had used before I went in there and I'm still kicking. And I heard enough truth in that book study that night that something woke up within me. Something said, okay, this is what's wrong with me. I don't fully comprehend everything that's wrong with me, but that gentleman that was facilitating that book study spoke enough truth and it helped me truly understand that there was something wrong with me. And I asked him to help me that night. And he explained to me that night, he's like, what you have is alcoholism. You have a disease. And what we do here is we go through this book. I can take you through this process, and I guarantee you that your life will change for the better if you do everything that's in this book. And I genuinely believe this man. I didn't know him that night, but I genuinely believe what he was telling me was true. You know, a week before I had checked into that rehab, my one of my last greatest thoughts was to kill myself. I was very suicidal. I used to run around with guns, and I thought blowing my brains out was a good thing to do at that time. That's the mindset that I went in there. Um, so this gentleman proceeded to take me through the book. God has always blessed me with beautiful teachers. The lineage that I was originally involved with was from Joe and Charlie, Mr. Joe McQuaney. I was in a direct lineage to him. We used to go out to Serenity Park out in Little Rock, Arkansas when they were out there. That particular treatment center had a 95% recovery rate. They used to track all their alumni. I didn't get any kind of watered down program. I got straight big book from day one. And these gentlemen and these big book fundamentalists that I got introduced to took me through this process, helped me understand my alcoholism, my disease, what was wrong with me, and what I had to do to conquer that. And they helped me understand that I had to establish a relationship with God because there was no other way for me to get over this. And I proceeded to do that. And that was about oh man, 21 years ago that I've been trying to walk this walk and do this journey and enhance and enlarge on my relationship with God and try to help as many people as I can and try to live a very productive, God-oriented life. And all that went well. I made my amends, repaired all the relationships that I had, got right with God, understood my disease, gave back tremendously. I started doing workshops. We would do Big Book Comes Alive seminars all over here in Southern California at the Salvation Armies. They were 3-day workshops, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I was involved. I started meetings. Some of those meetings are still going to this day. I have sponsored a lot of people, and I've tried to give back as much as I can. Until about 17, 5 years ago, I was about 17 years into this, and I hit a spiritual bottom that I couldn't comprehend. I didn't understand what was going on. I was very fearful, consumed with fear. Now I understand it's our spiritual malady that really took a hold on me. Consumed with fear, not understanding what was going on. I went from doing workshops like three times a year to doing one. I went from, attending a lot of meetings to one. I went from, sponsoring a handful of guys to one. And then even at that, the phone started getting really heavy. I didn't want to start picking up the phone, and all the things that I had done to build this relationship with God were not important to me anymore. Mind you, I had just gotten married. I had just gotten married 2 weeks before or 2 months before. I had plenty of money in the bank. We had a beautiful house. I had plenty of toys. Everything on the outside looked perfect. We had our daughter, our first daughter was on the way. Everyone in AA thought everything was perfect. I was a poster boy for AA, and everyone thought that he's got the best, beautiful life that's out there. But internally, I was just dying, and I couldn't comprehend what was going on. I did not understand what was happening. And that led me to my current lineage and my current group, BBA. And I crawled into BBA, spiritually bankrupt, spiritually dying again. And God brought me to a new experience that I needed to have, 5 years ago. And I've been currently having that experience going through the BBA process on a depth and a level that I have never experienced before. I thought I trusted God, and I came to find out that I didn't. I thought I let God love me, and I came to find out that I didn't. I thought that I let God direct me and lead me, and I came to find out that I didn't. My life, I learned, was still based in a lot of fear and a lot of selfishness. And I have come to a point in this journey where I can wholeheartedly say with you guys that I believe and let God truly guide me and love me, and truly, truly, wholeheartedly do that. And honestly, with courage, let him do that. And it's put me in a place of peace and tranquility that I've never been able to experience before up to this point. You know, Within these last 5 years, I've had to bury my grandmother who raised me. She gave up her career to raise me as a child, and she was like my mother. And the pain that I experienced through that, I had an experience behind that. You know, and I got to understand what real love was when she passed away. I didn't drink over that. We had this last 5 years within my marriage has been nothing but a reconstruction. I've had to repair the marriage that I almost destroyed. And my wife is literally the first woman that I fell in love with at the age of 13. She's my first love. Literally the first woman that I've ever loved, I got to marry, you know? And that was another blessing. When I reconnected with her, I hadn't been in contact with her for 10 years. 10 years, and I made a wish on my birthday wish, a prayer. Like, God, please, just send me true love. Send me something real, something true love. And 2 days later, I get a text from her. I didn't have her number saved. I didn't have any contact with her anywhere on social media, nothing. I hadn't spoken to her in 10 years, telling me that, she just had this feeling she had thought about me 2 days earlier when I made that wish, that prayer, and she was reaching out to see how I was doing. God set all that up. God orchestrated all that. And we proceeded to date, and I got to marry my first love. But that came with a lot of pain behind that. I almost destroyed that marriage, behind my alcoholism and my self-centeredness and my disease. And thankfully, 5 years later, we are in a place of peace and love and joy. She's worked the BBA process on the Al-Anon side, so she's gotten to experience her own relationship with God and work on the stuff that she's needed to work on for herself. And we bring God into our home now. You know, my 3-year-old daughter got to see a lot of the ugliness on my 4-year-old, unfortunately. And she's not dumb. She's experienced some of the fights and the ugliness, and I've had to do a lot of amends and repair that relationship with my daughter too. And I've been able to do that. She's finally in a place of peace and tranquility, and doesn't get so fearful today when mommy and daddy are talking. She's not worried about us exploding into a fight. You know, I've always wanted to be a father that had nothing but love and understanding, and I never wanted to create those kind of situations for my kids. But I did behind this alcoholism and this disease. Early on, and I've been able to repair that. We have my other 1-year-old. God has blessed us, man. God has truly blessed us with the family that I have today. I got my 4-year-old, I got my 1-year-old, and I've been able to show them peace and understanding in a God-directed life. Like my 4-year-old knows that I'm in here right now doing a meeting. She'll constantly jump on the Wednesday night meeting, because she knows that I'm doing a meeting. Like she knows this is what I have to do. She likes to meditate, she'll see me meditate like, oh, daddy, what are you doing? And I'm trying to explain to her, oh, I'm meditating with God and trying to help a 4-year-old understand that. So she'll grab my rosary and she'll like, okay, I'm going to go meditate too, and she'll go jump on the couch and sound like she's meditating. These are the kind of principles that I get to implement with my family today, with my kids, trying to help them understand God and meditation and what do I do to fix all this. As when Eric asked me to share, I was like, okay, what do you want me to talk about, God? What do you want me to talk about? And the passage that came up is out of Bill's story. It says, bottom of page 13, it says, my friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my creator, that I would have the elements of a way of living which answered all my problems. And what things are done, the 12 steps, you know, when I first got here, I thought I was just here for drugs and alcohol. Then it was explained to me that no, you're here because you have a disease, you have an illness. And the only thing that's going to conquer that is you having this relationship with God. Man, I didn't want to hear about God. That's the last thing I wanted to hear about when I got here. It's like, and my parents used to be part of a marriage encounter group through the Catholic Church. And they work something very similar to 12-step work. So growing up as a kid, every Wednesday and Sunday nights, I'd be in church. And some other nights of the week, I'd be, the marriage encounter group is kind of like a relationship building, right? One marriage helping another marriage, one recovered marriage helping a struggling marriage rebuild their marriage pretty much. But it's all same, right? It's fellowship and implementing kind of like 12-step work. So every other night I'd be in these meetings. So I grew up around spirituality and religion. God was everywhere in my household, everywhere. My grandmother was very religious. And when I got here and you told me it was all about God, I was like, oh, hell no. No, sorry. I grew up in the church. I grew up around principles. I grew up around that. this has been in my life, since day one. Like that's the last thing I wanted to hear. Um, but when I realized that there was no other middle of the road solutions, that not everything that I had tried didn't work. I had tried the youth groups, I had tried church. I had tried, I went as far as to try to get hypnotized. And that dude swore when he hypnotized me that I wasn't going to drink and use it again anymore. And that didn't work. I had tried it. I had tried everything out there that I could think about to try to get this to stop, and nothing worked. So when it was explained to me that I had alcoholism and that this was going to kill me if I didn't do something about it, I was like, okay, well, maybe this will work. Maybe, it was just a big maybe. And I can sit here today after, experiencing this for 21 years, that I know God is real. And I know that God is real. You can't tell me otherwise. And I know God has blessed me with the beautiful life that I have. And I know if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be alive today. I know that to my core. And I know what happens when I let my selfishness come in and me try to run the show and dictate every aspect of my life. You know what I do in recovery? I burn it to the ground. That's what I do. I'll wreak havoc. It has nothing to do with the drugs or the alcohol. I like to fight, and I like to destroy stuff. That's just what I do. It's in my nature. And if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be able to have the peace and the serenity and the life that I get to have today. Current situations that I'm going through, I have a very toxic work environment that I'm dealing with. I've been dealing with it for the last year. My toxic employer has tried to fire me multiple times within the last year. I've had HR not really doing what they need to do. And you know who's protected me through all that? God. God has not let that happen. As much as this woman has tried to make that happen and fabricate and tell lies and just do what she does, there was a period where I wanted to really retaliate because I'm good at that, and I have enough stuff to where I can make a case, and you know what God brought into my heart? Every time that situation comes up, that this woman is very, very sick and she's going through a lot of pain. And you got to pray for her and you got to forgive her. You know how much strength and courage it's been for me not to tell this woman off every day for the last year. You know how much courage and reliance on God I've had not to just go off on this lady for threatening my livelihood and my family's livelihood. If that's not God, I don't know what else is. And all that keeps coming up is like, you got to forgive this lady. You got to have patience of and tolerance for this lady. And you got to understand that she is not well and she is in a tremendous amount of pain. And you got to be very patient with her. And that ain't coming from me, man. That is not coming from me, because I like to fight, and I'm good at that. And that I've been placed in a position of neutrality. I really have. And it says that God can match, all our calamities with serenity. And that's been my experience. That's truly been my experience. That's current day things that I'm dealing with, with my work. Um, but on the flip side of that, God has blessed me. I get to live in the most beautiful place that I've ever lived before. You know, Eric knows, I live here in Long Beach. We get to have a beautiful view of the ocean. I'm currently looking at a Carnival cruise line getting ready to take off on. These people get to go on a vacation right now, and they're setting up on the Carnival cruise line to go and have beautiful memories. The Long Beach Grand Prix was here last week, and I got to experience race cars going 180 miles down an hour down the street, and I get to see that from my window, when they're here. My kids are taken care of. They've never had a need. My wife is happy today. She's never had a need or a want. And God has truly blessed me, truly blessed me. But if there's one thing that I really want to hammer home is that on the days where I'm not actively working this and actively trying to work on my relationship with God, self will quickly come back. On the days where I'm not actively doing my 10 step, there's been occasions where I've talked to Eric on the spot, like, hey man, this is what's going on at work right now. Like I'm feeling depressed. Like I can't snap out of this. And Eric will get on the phone with me, or I'll talk to my sponsor, Pat. Or I'll talk to other people within the rooms that I trust, like, hey man, I need help here, man, because I'm getting ready to go off, and I really need your help. And I'll pray and meditate on it, take it to God and run it by other people, and God will get me out of that. On the days where I'm not doing that, I get full of fear, I get very depressed, and I get very delusional. And I get consumed with the malady, and those days are not they're not well, they're not productive. So I've learned through a lot of pain that I gotta actively be doing this every day. I gotta actively be doing my 10th step. I gotta actively be doing my 11th step at night. And I gotta continue to sponsor. Because if I'm not, then I'm not growing. I'm really not. And this whole 12-step process is how to grow, how to continually grow and enhance my relationship with God. That's the whole point to all this. How am I going to continue to grow and build on this relationship that I have established with God? And if there's anything that I've learned through my marriage is that a relationship is two ways. There's two ways, it's two ways to every single relationship. I got to do my part and God will do his part. If I'm not doing my part, God is not going to do his part. And my part is to actively work my 10th step, my 11th step, my 12th step, and let him handle the rest. Let him fight my battles. Let him be my protector. Let him provide. Let him guide me. Let him direct me in the direction that he wants my life to go. And when I truly, fully surrender to that and let God truly do that, God blesses me, man. He truly does. He blesses me. And it's not so much the material stuff and all that. He blesses me with so much peace and love and understanding and tranquility that it's like a high, man. I'm high right now with you guys. I truly am. Because I just, I know someone needs to hear something, and I've asked God to help me be a channel for him right now. And I truly hope that someone is hearing what they need to hear and understand that whatever you're going through, whatever kind of pain you're in, and whatever kind of situation the malady has you in, I know I've been there, man. I've hit a lot of dark areas within these rooms, within recovery, and I've been able to get out of it, through this work. I have. I've hit a lot of low points within my recovery, and I've come to find out that without pain, there is no growth. Pain has been always been the touchstone of all growth for myself. It's been through the most painful, traumatic experiences that I've grown the most, and the more that I've relied on God, and the more that I've seen that God truly does love me, and God truly does take care of me through those experiences. So whatever it is that you're going through and whatever it is that you're experiencing, and the pain that you might be in, I understand. I truly do understand that. And I hope you understand as well that there's a way out of that. And it just takes some work. I've had to do a lot of work on myself, through this process. Well, I'll take that back. I've had to let God do a lot of work on me. I've had to let God do a lot of work on me through this process. I've had to truly let God in. I fought for so long to let God in. Yeah, I think that's been, I think that's been the biggest fight, man. Really just truly letting God love me. But yeah, that's been the biggest fight, man. Just really, yeah. I know God loves me today. And I was so fearful to let that happen. There was so much fear behind that. But when I finally surrendered to that, to letting God love me and take care of me and take care of my family and take care of my employment and just take care of everything, and really, really know that God truly does love me, it dramatically changed my outlook on life and this program. And yeah, it's been the biggest blessing what I've gone to experience. And this has been my current, 12-step experience that I've been going through. I've been going through a little spiritual awakening this last couple of weeks, and truly understanding that God does love me and I'm one of his kids. The same way I take care of my daughters, God takes care of me. But I comprehend that today. I comprehend him being the father and me being his children, you know? And it's the biggest blessing that we get to experience. We get to live two lives in here. And I've lived a very dark life in my disease, and that's not the case today. I get to see the light and experience that and see the love and truly understand that I'm one of God's children and I'm here to help his children and I'm here to do his work as much as I can. And all that is trying to help the next alcoholic, the next drug addict, the next that needs help and to do that to the best of my ability. And as a result of that, God blesses me with a beautiful life and a beautiful family. And I get to experience beautiful things as long as I continue to do that. So if there's, the last thing I really want to say is that God does love us, you know, and if we let that happen and we let him take care of us and let him guide us, we can get to experience beautiful things. That's been my experience. So yeah, I think I'll end there. And I just, I'm very blessed to be here with you guys. I've been moved and I want to thank all of you guys for that. I really do. So I love you guys and I just, thank you guys for having me.